This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
Some tough tests for college football playoff hopefuls coming up in week number 3. Alabama going on the road, take on Wisconsin. Pretty big spread there. Mizzou hosting Boston College. Big spread there too, but those are pretty tough contests with both teams entering as undefeated. We're going to break down those games and break down the top bets on the board at FanDuel Sportsbook for week number 3 by talking to Kent Padgett and getting his read on this week's games at FanDuel Sportsbook. This is Covering the Spread, a FanDuel research podcast. My name is Jim Saunas. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research, joined here as mentioned by Kent Padgett. Check him out on X at KNTPDGTT. You can find him on the FanDuel socials as well, all over the place, including TikTok. Kent, happy week 3 to you. How you doing today?
Happy week 3, man. I'm excited. How are you?
I am excited. I think it's going to be a pretty fun slate. I know that it's not like the biggest games, like if you're talking like top level games, no massive games this week, but like it's fun to see teams get early season tests. I feel like we'll learn a lot about these teams and how they perform in these games.
Yeah, and everybody's jockeying for pole position for the playoff run, so every week still counts in this sport.
Exactly. And you are speaking my language with pole position out there. So Kent learning on the fly to insert all NASCAR terms, whenever possible, on the show. Kudos to you, Kent, for that. We're going to break down today the 3 biggest games across week number 3 in college football, talking Arizona, Kansas State, Alabama, Wisconsin, Boston College versus Mizzou. Also talk some Texas, maybe some Heisman futures, talk some Quinn Ewers after their big win last week, and get Kent's favorite bets for week 3 at FanDuel Sportsbook. But first, a reminder to make sure you are subscribed to the Covering the Spread podcast feed wherever you get your podcast. Just search for Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcast. You can also find us on the FanDuel YouTube page and FanDuel TV Plus. If you're watching on YouTube, A, we appreciate you. As always, B, leave us a thumbs up there. Make sure you're subscribed on the FanDuel YouTube page. To get FanDuel TV Plus, go to FanDuel.com/watch and log in to their FanDuel account or download the FanDuel TV Plus app on your Amazon Fire, Apple TV, or Roku device. Football is back, and there's no better place to get in on the NFL action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now all customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. Plus, with FanDuel, you don't even have to leave the app to access real-time stats and data to help make even more winning bets. Download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Must be 21 plus and present in select states or 18 plus and present in DC. Offer ends 9/22/24. After a 3-week free trial, the full price of NFL Sunday Ticket will be automatically charged seasonally, no refunds, cancel anytime. Terms, restrictions, and embargoes apply. YouTube TV base plan required to watch YouTube TV. Redemption requires a Google account and a current form of payment. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Now, Kent, we'll dig into the week 3 games here in just 1 second. But first, after that big win for Texas last week, Quinn Ewers is now the Heisman favorite at FanDuel Sportsbook, sitting at 5-1. Are you willing to bite at that number, or does the value in this market lie at a longer number?
I think at 500, that's still great value for him. I always think about this with like Heisman odds. Like, obviously, a lot of season left to go. We've got conference play coming up, but if I were to put like $10 on 5 different guys, if he's at plus 500, I easily think he would be one of those 5 guys I would put money on. So I think I could do him and the 4 others right behind him, and then like worst case, he's the winner. I'm kind of breaking even there. So
Right.
If you look, if I imply it that way, like he is definitely one of the 5 guys who's going to win this thing. Coming up later, like first off, he carved up Michigan's defense that has 2 NFL first rounders on it. But he's got like the schedule for the rest of the way. They kind of have a favorable SEC schedule. He's got Oklahoma, which is neutral field. The big game for them is going to be Georgia. That one's in Austin. And then Texas A&M at the end of the year. That'll be a primetime game, I'm sure. A lot of eyeballs on it. Is Texas A&M really that great? Are they going to be able to stop him? I don't know. But I think he has enough games where it's going to be like that's the ABC game in prime time. Ton of eyeballs are watching, and he's going to do his thing. Um, like I don't see him coming out and laying an egg any of these games the rest of the year. And like the Georgia one, it's in Austin. So, I know that the SEC is loaded with quarterbacks, and um, I think he's as safe a bet right now as any of them. And so plus 500, I'd jump all over that.
Yeah, Ewers 5-1. You got Cam Ward checking in plus 750 after his great start to the year. Carson Beck plus 850. Jackson Dart plus 950. You mentioned you'd be willing to consider any of those guys. Is there a preference for you of that group? Is Ewers your favorite of that option? Those options?
Probably. But Dart is right there. Like he's kind of got that same DNA as Ewers, where it's like he's got studs all around him, an offense that's going to let him throw it and do his thing. So, um, Dart, I mean, he could be the guy as well. And like,
Okay.
it's not going to shock me at all if we have 3 or 4 of these SEC, even Nico at Tennessee, like New York for the Heisman could be all SEC quarterbacks this year.
It's a fun problem to have. Having that many good quarterbacks in one conference going to make for a lot of fun conference play as the year goes along. But Kent eyeing Jackson Dart plus 950 at FanDuel Sportsbook as of right now. Let's dig into these pretty fun week number 3 games beginning on Friday night. Actually, Arizona heading to Kansas State to take on them. Spread is 7.5 in favor of Kansas State right now. Total of FanDuel Sportsbook is 58.5. Both these teams entering 2-0. Not the stiffest competition as of yet. So what's your view of the betting lines in this game, Kent?
Yeah, first off, Arizona's helmets look incredible. They're wearing these red helmets with cats and cursive on the side. So having Friday night college football is awesome. Those uniforms just make it even better. Um, as I look at Arizona, they had like a weird win last week over Northern. I think it was Northern Arizona. After this first game where this Tetaroa McMillan, I think I'm saying that name correctly, dude goes off like 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, and I'm like, well, the Heisman campaign starts with him.
Right.
I don't think he did much in week 2. I think it was like maybe 1 catch for 10 yards or something along those lines. But he's got to have a bounce back game. Like there was people on TikTok comparing him to Julio Jones. Like he's not gonna stay quiet. And I know Kansas State's got like a dynamic quarterback. They've got some good running backs, but um, it, I'm expecting a ton of offense in this game just from who the quarterbacks are. Friday Night Lights, like Arizona. I know they're in the Big 12 now, but when I think of night games with Arizona, I just think of Pac-12 after dark and a ton of
Right.
points. Um, so I think this game's going to go back and forth, but with the wide receiver there at Arizona, like even if Kansas State gets up, there's going to be a backdoor cover there. So I'm thinking this one's like my prediction here is 42-38. K-State squeaks out the win, but I'm taking Arizona in the points and slamming that over.
Okay, so the over right now at FanDuel Sportsbook is currently sitting again at 58.5. So not a bad number there. Minus 118. Arizona plus 7.5 is minus 110 at FanDuel Sportsbook. Any interest in player props here? McMillan, as you mentioned, could be a guy if they're in chase mode, trying to keep pace. McMillan right now at FanDuel Sportsbook, his receiving yardage prop is pretty lofty. 92.5. Over is minus 114. Is that high enough, Kent, to scare you away from McMillan?
Absolutely not. I mean, even with the rough go last week, he's that was 300 yards in the first game, so 150 is his average. This is like I said, I've got a feeling this is going to be one of those high scoring games where you have to put the ball in the air a lot, and I don't see him staying under 100.
Okay, so 92.5, the number there for McMillan. And again, liking the over as well for that game. 58.5 over is minus 118 as Arizona heads to Kansas State. That is a Friday night game to kick things off. Big game on Saturday. Alabama heading to Camp Randall, taking on Wisconsin. Spread there 16.5. It was 15.5 yesterday, so some lengthening there in Alabama's favor. Total is 50.5. And Alabama, couple of beatdowns so far. Now facing a pretty feisty at times Wisconsin team. Can the Badgers keep this one close enough to cover with this game being in Wisconsin?
I don't think so. I know Camp Randall's like a tough place to play, but this is a noon kickoff for me, Eastern time.
Yeah.
11 a.m. local time, I believe, if I am doing my time zones right.
Yep.
I don't think that plays in Wisconsin's favor at all. Like Camp Randall at night, the jump around, the place would be rocking. Students would be doing their thing, tailgating all day. Noon's a little bit different. The weather's not going to be a factor. I mean, it's going to be sunny out. Um, And this is one of those games. Alabama is like Wisconsin's a Big Ten team. They've got a big brand name. Like Alabama's had this one circled since DeBoer got there. Um, and Alabama's brand, like so far, they've been kind of a ground and pound team, and they've got the two good running backs. Milrow likes to run it, and they struggled in the first half against South Florida, but the second half, well, it was really the fourth quarter, but it's like they just wear you down in the trenches, and that's kind of the game Wisconsin wants to play. But it's like, hey, Wisconsin, here's the big league version of the game that you want to play. Also, Wisconsin has won, I think it was 27-13 week one, 28-14 week two. They didn't cover a spread either time. So, and I'm not sold on Van Dyke. So it's hard for me to buy the Badgers right now. And I just think Alabama's going to wear them down. And as that game goes on into the fourth quarter, I think it could get ugly. And I think Alabama easily wins by 3-4 touchdowns.
And again, that number right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, 16.5, -105. If you're laying the 16 out there with Alabama, I I will give Wisconsin some credit in terms of their ability to get up for an 11 o'clock game because Brandy Old Fashions can be very efficient and can get the job done of a full day of tailgating in a very quick fashion. And that's the one thing Wisconsin does know how to do very well. Get some cheese curds in you. I think you're getting up for an 11 o'clock game. It might not be the easiest thing to do, but I have some faith in them, at least in that regard.
Okay. All right. I'll give them some more credit. I forget we are dealing with a place that's like known for, I mean, their
Yep.
baseball team is the Milwaukee Brewers. So
Correct. Yep.
I'll let that one slide. But
They
at the
can
same
they can get the
time,
job done when called upon.
that's right. But that can only go so far because this team
Correct.
Alabama is throwing out between the lines out on the field. I think Bama still takes care of business.
I don't think a Brandy Old Fashioned will stop Jalen Milrow. That's the one
No.
downside with the plan laid out there. So we're liking Alabama minus 16.5 as they take on Wisconsin this weekend. Another big game for another college football playoff hopeful. That is Mizzou, currently the 6th ranked team in the country, hosting Boston College. Feisty team to kick off the year for them as well. Right now, Mizzou favored by 16.5 at FanDuel Sportsbook. Total is 53.5. And Mizzou really impressed last year, had a really impressive stretch for them overall then, and they've carried that momentum into this year with back-to-back shutouts. So, Kent, can Mizzou keep the momentum rolling and cover a large spread at home against BC?
I think this one gets ugly. I know Bill O'Brien's a heck of a coach, but I'm kind of like following the same like setup I just saw with Georgia Tech. They beat Florida State, they get on their high horse, and then they get beat by Syracuse. Boston College, everybody's kind of loving them, the quarterback, the whole deal. But um, I just think Missouri, like Bill O'Brien's a good coach, but Eli Drinkwitz is also a really good coach. And their offensive coordinator, it's Kellen Moore's brother. I've got a lot of faith in him. Brady Cook, Luther Burden, like they have some studs on the outside. And so I think this run with Boston College here is going to come to a screeching halt. Missouri is different this year. Also, statistically, got one for you. Missouri's won 18 straight home non-conference games, and they have covered 8 of their 9 last spreads dating back to last year. So I don't think that anything's changing with that. I am taking Missouri, and I think they win pretty big here.
The 16.5 with Mizzou currently at FanDuel Sportsbook. If you want to lay that is minus 110 for this one. And I know that we talked about what they did the first 2 games, but like you said, this does date back to last year, and the market doesn't seem to have caught up to how good this Mizzou team is. When you watch them, Kent, what makes them as good as they've been over the past now basically year and a half?
Well, I know Luther Burden's the big name, but it's been their running game.
Yeah.
And even when Cody Schrader left, he was like a 6th-year senior last year, but he was filthy. They've replaced him with 2 running backs in the portal, one from right here in Appalachian State, Noel. He's nice. I mean, they just have a good system there, and they've got some dogs on that offense. And Burden, I mean, I think he missed maybe all of the second half last week with an illness. He should be a full go. Um, and then I'm interested to see this Castellanos when he has to open it up because I think Missouri's going to get a big lead. How does he respond to this Missouri defense? An SEC top 10 defense. That'll be a true test for a guy who's drawn comparisons to Kyler Murray already.
Yeah. And they haven't needed Luther Burden yet. And they might here because Boston College is a very respectable team. And I want to see 4 full quarters of Burden kind of get that NFL draft hype train rolling. That could be a lot of fun.
Yep. I know he's an exciting watch, and so I'm excited that they're finally gonna like need him. And I feel like
Yeah.
him and Brady Cook have been. I don't know if they've thrown a forward pass in the second half yet this year. They've just been crushing everybody. So I'm excited to see them complete a third quarter pass.
Okay, so across the 3 featured games for this week, we like in Arizona plus 7.5 and the over 58.5. They take on Kansas State, Alabama, and Mizzou, both minus 16.5 at FanDuel Sportsbook. Any other week 3 games catching your attention here, Kent?
Yeah, and it's going to catch a lot of people's attention because College Game Day's there. Saturday morning, LSU at South Carolina in Columbia, South Carolina. Um, so I'm still trying to figure out who LSU is. Is that say 6.5 right there?
Yeah, it does. LSU minus 6.5, total
Yeah.
49.5.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, LSU, I know they lost that first game to USC, but they hung in there. Like that was a good game. And this Garrett Nussmeier, I think he can play. Um, South Carolina, they kind of have struggled. I think they beat Kentucky pretty good last week, but they struggled with Old Dominion week 1. They've got the quarterback Lenoris Sellers. He's solid, but I think this is one of those games. It's like another noon kickoff, so we're gonna have to put the brandy old fashions to the test
That's
there
right.
in
That's
South
right.
Carolina. But I have a feeling LSU has a lot to prove, and I don't know if and USC they have good players, but they're kind of young. I just think LSU comes out and gives them a pretty good shot, and this is a big win for LSU.
All right. As mentioned, College Game Day will be there on Saturday morning for LSU taking on South Carolina, and Kent is on LSU minus 6.5. You have to lay minus 124 to get that number for LSU for Saturday. That's all we got here for this week, previewing week number 3 across college football. Once again, don't forget to find Kent on the FanDuel socials. Check him out on TikTok and find him on X as well at KNTPDGTT. Kent, appreciate the time once again. Good luck to you and enjoy week 3. And we'll talk to you once again soon.
Thanks. Same to you.
Alrighty, thank you, Kent. You can also find me on X at Jim Sonis. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Tomorrow, Dubs Anderson will join us breaking down his favorite bets across week 2 in the NFL. Megan Payton with us on Friday. You can find our chat with Liv Moods breaking down futures and week 2 in the podcast feed right now as well. Want to thank you all for tuning in for today. We'll talk to you once again soon. This has been Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast.